I'm Frank Vassalero, and welcome to the Renaissance News Network. The time is now 11 a.m. here in Florence. In these past few years, there have been many exceptional advances. The first freestanding sculpture has been created, great scientific research was conducted, and there was a dramatic shift in the importance of the human being. We take you now to Amelia Santinello with a full weather report.
You'll need to bundle up today if you decide to go out. It's going to be a bit chilly with a high of 2 degrees. Throughout the day, there will be low winds and a slight cloud cover. I've just been informed of breaking news. Back to you, Frank.
This just in, Martin Luther has released his 95 Theses. They were posted this morning on the door of the church at the University of Wittenberg in Saxony. Finally, someone has spoken out against the new indulgence created by the Archbishop of Mainz and Pope Leo X. Many are calling this event the spark of the Reformation. We will bring you any updates here on RNN, the Renaissance News Network. We will take you now to Perch Perkins, who is live with Martin Luther.
Thank you, Frank. I'm here on the steps of the church where Luther has nailed his 95 Theses. Luther, what was the goal of this act?
My goal is to stop the madness. The church is selling people lies, telling them that their salvation can be bought. Salvation is an act between God and a single person and has nothing to do with the church or money. I was once part of the church myself, so I know how terrible it can be.
You said that you were once a part of the church. Can you tell us more about that?
Well, yes, I was both a monk and a priest in my days before the Reformation.
Fascinating. Can you tell us what are some of the main arguments in the Reformation?
I hate the use of indulgences and the way they are used corruptly in the church. Also, the Mass isn't even spoken in traditional Latin anymore. The church's motives are no longer pure.
That's very interesting. Have you written any other documents in regards to the Reformation?
No, not at this point, but I sure plan to, and I can tell you this. I am fed up with the church acting so high and mighty, like they run the world. Who do they think they are, selling people indulgences?
Can you explain to us what these indulgences are?
Indulgences are a way to reduce the amount of sins you have committed on earth, attempting to buy yourself less time in purgatory.
How do you think the church will react to your 95 Theses?
At this point, I know that the church will not like what I have to say, but I do hope that they will recognize the current problems in the church.
Thank you for your time, Mr. Luther. Back to you in the newsroom, Amelia.
There you have it, Martin Luther's direct insight on the current troubles in the church, and now more on the development of the Reformation. We have recovered information about others working towards the same goals as Martin Luther. Their names are Ulrich Zwingli, John Calvin, and Erasmus. We have reached out to them and are now waiting for a response, and we hope to have more information soon. Stay tuned to RNN to hear updates on this rapidly growing story.
Oh, I didn't see you there. My name's Johann Tetzel. Have you been extra sinful lately? Did Santa bring you nothing for Christmas? Well, do I have the perfect gift to save your souls? The new indulgences will not only let you be sinful at night, but still let you make it into the light. Indulgences not only shorten your time in purgatory, but also your family and loved ones. Because who wants to go to hell? Get your indulgences for just $9.99 plus shipping and handling. See you in heaven.
Welcome back to RNN, your Renaissance News Network. We have an update about the events of the Reformation. But first, a local story. Recently, scientists and astronomers have been working together to present the heliocentric theory, meaning that the sun is the center of the universe.
That is quite amazing how we can discover so much about such a huge universe. In regards to the Reformation, we were able to speak to some other major figures involved today. We now have Ulrich Zwingli on the phone with us. Hello, Mr. Zwingli. Thank you for speaking with us.
It's my pleasure.
Mr. Zwingli, you are a reformer too, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
So, what has been your involvement in the Reformation?
Well, I believe in many of the same ideas that Martin Luther does, but I want to especially emphasize the understanding of the sacraments and the importance of the Catholic religion.
How do you plan to do that, and what sacraments do you believe are the most important in the church?
Well, the two most important sacraments are the Eucharist and baptism. A sacrament should be a sign of God's given grace, not just a repeated act as they are today. I plan to preach about not only these two sacraments, but modify the church teachings as they are. We should uproot it all to start over.
Can you explain your goal in changing the traditional sacraments?
I wish for people to be able to better understand the sacraments, and so they can hold true meaning for the people.
Have you written any documents against the church?
No, I have not written anything yet, but I have acted out against the church. It was during Lent when some of my friends, my family, and myself broke the rule of fasting.
Why did you support this action, and how was it significant in the Reformation?
Well, I supported it because I believe the church has too much hold on each person's life. I value independence of the individual and the freedom of religion. It was significant because at the time, the church had almost complete control. By doing this, I showed that the people should not be ruled by the church, and that the powers of the church and state should be separate.
It's amazing how that one action can represent so much.
Yes, it is.
Well, that's all the questions we have time for. Thank you for talking with us today, Mr. Zwingli.
So far today, we have talked to two of the main players in the Reformation. We are also lucky enough to bring a reformer by the name of John Calvin here to Florence for an interview. Back to our reporter, Perch Perkins, who is with him now.
Thank you, Amelia. I'm here today with another major player in the Reformation, John Calvin. Mr. Calvin, can you tell me about some of your roles in the Reformation?
Yes, as you stated, I am a reformer, and I have been following in the footsteps of Martin Luther. I want to bring the church back to a pure state, how it's supposed to be.
As you know, Luther wrote his 95 Theses. Have you written any documents like that?
As a matter of fact, I did. It was entitled Institutes of the Christian Religion.
Can you elaborate on the contents of the writing?
My document explained my beliefs about the church and how I think it should be changed. The writing set basic rules for the newly reformed churches, and it became a standard of the church, almost like the Bible.
How did you implement these beliefs into the Reformation?
Well, I created my own church, the Genevan Church, and in it we succeeded to separate the powers of the church and state, while still maintaining control of the people.
Well, it is obvious that you are against the current Catholic Church. What are some of the exact traditions you are fighting against?
For one, I'm sick of the corruption of the church, as are many of the reformers. I'm also rejecting transubstantiation, which is the belief that the bread and wine becomes the body and blood of Jesus during the Mass. Another thing I'm skeptical about in the church is the praising of saints and Mary. After all, the church is supposed to be solely about God.
Do you feel that your contributions to the Reformation have been successful?
Yes, I do believe that I was successful in reforming the church, but I'm not as recognized as much as Martin Luther. Although I have many churches created under my belief system, he has just one under his own name, the Lutheran Church.
Well, I wish you luck with the Reformation, and thank you, Mr. Calvin, for agreeing to meet with me today. It has been a pleasure. Back to the newsroom with Frank and Amelia.
Thank you, Perch. Another reformer, Erasmus, was unable to be interviewed, but he did reach out and release a statement for us.
Here, he says, the church is corrupt. There are lustful nuns, money-driven priests, and spiteful monks. Some priests are even occupying multiple dioceses, never even stepping foot in the churches, and all just to get more money. The people need to strive to be like Jesus, not these corrupted church leaders. We need to stop them from taking the people's money. Salvation comes from God alone, and not material means, such as indulgences. We need to renew and purify the church. People need to appreciate the ceremonies in the church and understand their meanings. The Reformation will succeed. Wow, what a powerful message.
A powerful message indeed. Still ahead, a special interview with the Pope. Stay tuned to RNN to hear more updates about the Reformation after the break.
If you or a loved one has been affected by the Black Plague, you may be entitled to financial compensation. The Black Plague is a high-risk disease linked to rat exposure and unhygienic habits. Exposure in the home or in the community may have put you at risk. Please don't wait. Call for free legal consultation and financial information. Black Plague victims contact 1-800-ITALY-LAW. Welcome back to RNN. We have been following the story of the Reformation all day, and now we have a special update. Our field reporter, Perch Perkins, has gotten an exclusive interview with a major church official to gain sight on their opinions and views of the Reformation. We'll bring you to that interview now.
Today we have Pope Barnabas VII in the studio. Thank you for agreeing to meet with me today.
Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
What is your view of the Reformation, and how will this affect the Catholic Church?
I personally think that the views of the Reformation are wrong, and I would just like to clear up some of the facts about the Church. Right now, it is exactly how God intended it to be. The Church has power. As a result of the Reformation, many have begun to shy away from the Church, so we must have great authority over the people to keep them on the right path.
Where does the profit of these indulgences go?
I do admit that the money goes to the Church, but it is all for good cause. We have used it to build beautiful places of worship, such as St. Peter's Basilica in Rome.
Yes, it is indeed a beautiful church. Many people are wondering if you or the church are worried about the Reformation.
No, I am not worried. The people know what is right, and they will stay with the Church. But we have recognized some of their criticisms, and we aim to tackle these issues.
Interesting. Thank you for your time, Pope Barnabas. It has been great talking to you.
Thank you for reaching out to me. The Church wishes you well.
Back to Amelia in the studio.
Welcome back. I'm Amelia Santinello, and I'm here with our field reporter, Perch Perkins, to discuss some of today's events. So, Perch, I've heard that Martin Luther, the man you interviewed earlier, has written more against the Catholic Church.
Yes, he did just decide to write another work, just like he said he would.
Do you know what he wrote about?
Luther has actually written 3 new documents called the Three Treaties. The first one is about the German princes reforming the churches in their lands. Earlier, Martin explained to me that he was sick of the corruption in the church, and in this first treaty he addresses that. Essentially, he is asking the princes directly to help reform the churches instead of asking the clergy to change their ways.
Are the German leaders going to be happy with this proposal?
Of course! They definitely approve of the state-directed churches.
And the second treaty, this one is about changing the sacraments, right?
Yes, that's right. Luther is going to cut the 7 sacraments down to 2, baptism and communion. We also talked to Earl Richard Zwingli earlier, who had the same beliefs about those being the 2 most important sacraments.
Will Luther be changing anything about the 2 sacraments of baptism and communion?
From my understanding, he will be keeping baptism very similar to how it is now. But he is planning to change some of the words in the ceremony of communion.
Interesting. And lastly, the third treaty?
Ah, yes. The last treaty is about Christian liberty.
In this third treaty, Luther again rejects the use of indulgences and states that salvation comes from faith alone.
And he even compares the use of indulgences to Jesus forgiving the sins of a prostitute and marrying her.
Luther also brings up predestination, or the belief that God already has a plan for each person after they die. Why did he decide to keep this belief from the old church?
Well, Luther believes that the church should have no control over each person's life. Instead, he believes that God should hold power over the people.
The views from both sides of the Reformation are so interesting. I wonder how these events will unfold.
Well, Amelia, only time will tell.
Stay tuned on RNN to hear more of the Reformation when we come back. Do you struggle handwriting everything? Were you unable to learn to write? Do you hate having to scrap your work with each mistake? Well, worry no more. Johann Gutenberg's printing innovations will soon be available to you. The printing press will allow you to create documents and make several copies with ease. The press is the latest technology in print, and it comes with a lifetime warranty. Purchase your very own at-home printing press for just 2 payments of $49.99. And if you call an order right now, we will send you a complete row of specialty stamps for your Gutenberg printing press. This is a limited time offer. Call and order today. Call 1-800-16-PRINT. This just in. The Catholic Church has ordered Martin Luther to take back what he said in his 95 Theses. We have received word that Luther will be speaking at the Imperial Diet of Worms. There he will face an ultimatum: renounce his ideas or be excommunicated from the church.
An anonymous source has informed us that Luther has no intention of taking back what he said. If this is true, he will be excommunicated from the church immediately following the Diet of Worms. Our source says that Martin Luther's followers should not worry, and that Luther's allies plan to keep spreading his word after the Diet of Worms.
Thank you, Frank. Today we have covered the fascinating story of the Reformation. Stay connected with the story on RNN.com and tune in tomorrow to hear about the newest pieces of art being made right here in Florence.
Thank you for watching RNN, your Renaissance News Network. I'm Frank Vasilero.
And I'm Amelia Santinello. Until next time, good night.